Hello and welcome to the SMEFocus show powered by MTDCNC. I'm Mark Weymouth from the Sensor Specialist Plus Automation. I'm your host this week to highlight aspects of UK manufacturing and services and in particular SMEs. My guest today is Adam Tipper, founder of Next Gen Makers, which supports businesses run accredited and best practice apprenticeship schemes. I've watched Adam grow this business and achieve a lot of success over the past 6 years, so I thought he'd bring some interesting thoughts on apprenticeships and engagement for employees. Hi, Adam. Welcome to SMEFocus.
Hi, Mark. Nice to be here.
Thanks for coming on. So I mentioned it was a long time ago we met when you were at Made in the Midlands. But can I kick off with the first question of maybe asking about time before that? Let's test your memory. Tell us a little bit about your early working life in marketing, communications, and I guess also I'm going to ask any observations or tips that maybe you can pass on to SMEs because they're a big part of the audience.
Absolutely. I started out my career in what is still called a knowledge transfer partnership, working for the University of Wolverhampton. And I was based in an IT remanufacturer in Stoke-on-Trent, and I was a marketing knowledge transfer associate. After that, I moved into business journalism with regional business publication, Business Report, and that focused on promoting engineering and manufacturing success stories within the region. Following that, still at Business Report, I was involved in the formation of the Made in the Midlands initiative, which started out as an editorial campaign and progressed into what is now a thriving membership organisation. So in terms of marketing advice, I guess in its simplest terms, marketing is all about understanding your audience, what they want, how best to give it to them, and why you're different or better. But what I've noticed over the years, particularly on the PR side of marketing, the public relations side, and particularly within engineering and manufacturing, there are so many SMEs out there that have amazing stories to tell, probably doing a lot of things that to them are routine, but they're genuinely newsworthy. And so my advice will be, if you can, seek those out and try and publicise what you do.
Okay, sounds incredibly sensible. I think people obviously struggle to find the time, but I think it's a very rewarding way of communicating to customers. So good advice. So from the sort of early career you've mentioned there, and I guess you got out working with a lot of manufacturers, and you mentioned the one up in Stoke that you're working with. Is that where you got the inspiration to set up Next Gen Makers, or what was that moment of inspiration that thought, right, you're going to go out and try and improve engineering apprenticeships and try and make some change?
I think it was because having worked in and around manufacturing most of my career, and particularly being involved in initiatives that champion the sector and bring the sector together to collaborate, year after year after year, the narrative around the skills shortage never changed. It was just accepted, almost like it's a thing, and it is just that's just the way it is. And I thought that can't be right. There's got to be another way. There's got to be a different way of approaching this. And is it just a case of there's a need to innovate and differentiate to front up the status quo and the skills challenge? And working in those initiatives that champion the sector, you get quite passionate about it. And I don't know whether that's an engineering and manufacturing thing in the UK. A lot of people that work in the sector become very passionate about it. You'll obviously know yourself. So I was passionate enough and enthusiastic enough about the challenge to take a risk and start Next Gen Makers from scratch. And it was totally funded by myself. And it was a big risk at the time. I had a really good job. But I was passionate and I was enthusiastic and I was keen to try to make a difference and do something different. Primarily, I wanted to do something that inspired young people to want to become an engineer, and take a regional focus to that at first, which is how Next Gen Makers started regionally. We're national now. We're sort of 6 years on now, and we're a totally different entity to in terms of how it's evolved and what we was when we started, which obviously we'll come on to in a moment. But yeah, that was my reason for doing it. It's kind of enthusiasm, passion, but I didn't want to accept the status quo. I felt there is a different way.
Okay. So over those 6 years, as well as telling us a bit about the success, and I know you've made quite a lot of change, you work with some very big brands and partners, but tell us a little bit about that journey, and also maybe what's changed. You obviously went in with a perception of what you wanted to do. Is Next Gen Makers what that was? How has it changed?
I think it's far exceeded what I ever thought it could become, to be honest. And it's a pleasure to be involved in what we do now. I think, we're a national initiative. We have a fantastic strategic partner in Make UK, the national manufacturing organisation. We run an employer accreditation that is backed by Make UK, that recognises the best employers in the UK for engineering apprenticeships, and then we use that to inspire the next generation, shining a light on the best employers to inspire the next generation to want to come into engineering apprenticeships. But wrapped up in all of that, I think my knowledge of running and scaling membership organisations and communities from prior career experience really helped to build this best practice sharing community that we have at Next Gen Makers, and that's facilitating companies to learn from the successful approaches of each other regarding skill solutions and early career strategies, and putting those into practice and running successful apprenticeship schemes. And I think there's something about best practice sharing, and when you have it as a community, it's a very powerful thing.
Yeah, I think I always get the perception that it's something we're not as good at in the UK as maybe a lot of my life's been working with German businesses, and there seems to be far more of a collegiate sort of community of companies helping each other.
I think absolutely. I think it's more. It's definitely more collaborative. It's definitely more sort of open-minded. But I do see change. I do see that happening more often in the UK now. I might be seeing it sort of from a self-selected audience of companies that join something like Next Gen Makers because they're collaborative and because they're open-minded, and because they want to share and learn. But nevertheless, I do see it happening more frequently, and we are growing. So that would suggest that more companies are interested in doing that. But it definitely works in principle. Taking a continuous improvement ethos and applying it to apprenticeship schemes and skills within an organisation.
Well, I'm a strong believer you can't change the world, you can only change your little bit of it. So if those around you have been collaborative and successful, hey, yeah, that's all you can do, and to hell with the rest of the world. It's up to them if they join or not, but just improve your little bit of it. So it sounds good.
Absolutely. And if you have lots and lots of different engineering and manufacturing companies that are all increasing their competencies to attract and retain young talent, the cumulative impact of that en masse, if you have lots and lots of those doing it, is great for the sector, it's great for society, and it's great for the country.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, my reason for sort of reaching out to you was you're influencing youngsters, and we talk about we need far more youngsters, good youngsters coming into manufacturing, but B, I almost believe that if you bring them in at that early age, you change their life, you put them in a good profession where they earn well, but also a creative profession. It's got to be better, surely to God, to work in a business where you make something than you just shuffle numbers on a computer.
100%. And I think the brilliant thing about engineering is there's something for every type of individual. Whether you want to design, make, test, fix, analyze, problem solve, how many other sectors have that variety?
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. From your experience, and because you deal with so many different companies as well now in different areas, is there any advice that you could offer sort of the audience for, I guess, either about engineering apprenticeships, but maybe more generally about training and development?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess we're in the privileged position of having a community of that comprised of companies that are really good already, and companies that want to learn and become great. So from the companies that are really good, the one thing that we see frequently is that from the top down, the most successful companies understand their why behind investing in skills, and in particular their apprenticeship schemes. So they're strategically committed to them, and that cascades down into where do we want to be and what do we need to do to get there. And then they bring everybody in the organization on that journey. It's strategically important that they are all on board and on that journey, and that sort of permeates into the company's culture. And a really good example of that is I was having a chat recently with one of our members, Peter Watson, who's the managing director of an SME called Davicon Group.
Yeah.
And they, for 3 years running, they employ around 100 people. And for around 3 years running, they've successfully retained our gold accreditation as an excellent employer for engineering apprenticeships. But for 8 years running, they've had near 100% retention of their apprentices.
Right.
And we were talking about how that has happened and why to them that is normal, whereas in the wider sector it's not. And it was cultural. And that really is what sets them apart. And speaking with Peter, he said something that that really resonated with me. And he said when he was young, his dad said to him, buy the best thing you can afford with the money you have, and then really look after it. And Peter applies that same principle to his people within his organization. And that really, really resonated.
Yeah, fantastic common sense piece of advice, isn't it? So I think everyone can relate to that. So that's a brilliant way of capturing it.
Absolutely. I think as well, a lot of best practice when it comes to people and culture, it is common sense a lot of the time. It's not rocket science.
Yeah, indeed. You mentioned a minute ago one of the big key successes was everybody in the business understood what the purpose was. It's a strange tangent, but you've mentioned that you're a massive music fan, and in particular a big Bob Dylan fan. So I'm going to try and ask without insulting you the same question. So the question is why? Why are you a Bob Dylan fan?
Why not? Well, absolutely, why not? He's a creative genius, isn't he? I think for me, the greatest songwriter and lyricist the world will ever see, in my humble opinion. But his longevity is incredible, reinventing his style over decades. And he's still now constantly touring, turning out some of the best music in his career, I'd say, with his latest albums. And who else could be around for that long, but also maintain such mystique? I think that's really, really impressive, especially in a world where so many people want to show so much of their lives to the rest of the world through social media. I really admire someone that follows the opposite path. So what is not to like?
Okay. And would he be your mastermind topic if you were to ever appear on Mastermind?
Probably. Probably, yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't feel so bad asking the next question, and you've obviously had a hint of the question anyway. But so I'm going to say, if Bob Dylan's lyrics, some of them do cover sort of economic hardship, and there's an element of it being a bit bluesy. So could you pick a song that you'd say best? Well, if you could pick a song to either play at a Donald Trump rally or to play at an opponent of Donald Trump, what song would you pick from Bob Dylan? What lyrics sort of fit best?
Well, I'm apolitical, so political rallies aren't really for me. I just think when it comes to politics, we should have the most capable people doing the roles that they fit best for. But you mentioned prior Union Sundown. I get what you mean by a song like Union Sundown. Some perceive it as controversial because it's of its protectionist sentiment. But like anything in life, it's all about balance, isn't it? I think protectionism isn't all bad. I mean, how many of us now want more support for UK manufacturing? A call for a minister for manufacturing, for example, a call to protect more national assets like energy, steel. A strong manufacturing base is good for the economy, it's good for society, but it's also imperative for national security. And I think with manufacturing, it's more than a sector, isn't it? It transcends a sector. It's a national competence. And I think if you can balance that with the benefits of free trade and openness for inward investment in the right things, I think that's the way to go. But I guess when he wrote that song, globalization probably wasn't established as certainly anywhere near the ensuing decades. And if you look at the state where he's from as well, in the 70s when he wrote Union Sundown, that state was probably decimated. The traditional industry there was probably decimated, similar to what happened in the Northeast in England with the coal mines. So I guess that probably influenced the sentiment of that song. But yeah, certainly I'm not one for rallies. I'm not overly political, to be honest. I don't believe in party politics. I believe in the right people doing the job to serve the people. But on the subject of regions being decimated by the loss of traditional industry, I mean, how many have we seen endure hardship because industrial bases have dried up? I think it's a very serious point. A lot of people are frowning at Trump's protectionism in America, and I think there's a way of going about it, isn't it? In my opinion, there's a right and wrong way. But there is something to be said for protecting UK and for the Americans, US industry and manufacturing. But I guess it's doing that in a way that works well with the successes of globalization as well, and the strengths of globalization and free markets.
Okay. So if Union Sundown is very much a sort of Rust Belt themed song, from your knowledge of his songs and lyrics, is there another one that we should hunt out to that either supports it or is different to it? Suggest a Bob Dylan song that everybody should go away and speak to Spotify about after this.
I would listen to Slow Train Coming. That's one of my favorites. It's a similar theme to Union Sundown. It's not the same, totally the same sentiment, but cracking song, really catchy. One of my favorites. Okay,
cool. So you've mentioned to me that you write songs, which is a level of sort of creativity that I just can't imagine or ever hope to aspire to. So what themes you write about? Any specific styles that you prefer? Tell us a little bit more about your songwriting preferences.
Well, I still do write songs, but not as much as I used to. I was in a band. I was a frontman, singer, songwriter in a band with Charles Addison, who from Made in the Midlands, who very good guitarist actually he is, and an all round good egg, and some other really talented guys as well. We did all of our own stuff. We wrote it, recorded it in studios too. I'm actually really proud of what we did. It was a bit of a creative outlet. So influences for me were sort of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds and Black Rebel Motorcycle Club. So I guess my vocals and the kind of songs I wrote were similar in style to them. But I'd write about anything, everything from social commentary through to just creating characters and making up stories. But creating and scaling next gen put an end to all of that. It's pretty much taken up all of my energy and creativity over the past 6 years, which is why I stopped. But I look back on it fondly. I still do write the odd song here and there. Stuff comes out of nowhere into your head. It's like, I'd either record a voice note or I'll just write some lyrics down. But not as much as I used to.
Well, they say running your own business should be fun. I think that's because there's no time for any other form of fun.
You've got to make it fun, haven't you? You've got no choice.
Yeah. That's probably not a bad segue into the traditional last question, which is, can you tell us what your plans or hopes are for 2025 or the next 12 months? What are you hoping to achieve? What are your targets?
I think it's really simple. Keep growing our community, our best practice sharing community, keep sharing the good stuff around, help as many companies as we can that want to improve their apprenticeship schemes or want to future-proof their workforce, and keep banging the drum, keep inspiring the next generation of makers by celebrating the best employers and recognizing the best employers. That's really the focus of our efforts, and it will continue.
And any particular targets, any sort of wild thoughts you've got beyond that? Because obviously, to an extent, that describes the point you've got the business to now and why you've been successful and why we're talking. But have you got any particular targets or strange aspirations for the year ahead?
I think we're quite ambitious. Half of the business, as of a couple of years ago, is owned by a multinational organisation, MSC Industrial Supply, who've been a really supportive business partner. And a lot of the things that we can do now as an SME, we can do because of their support. So we're constantly trying new things. We're constantly trying to push boundaries, and it's because we have that kind of the confidence from that backing to do that. And that's a nice place for me as the MD to be in. It sort of helps with the sleepless nights or having less of them.
Good. Yeah. Okay, cool. So final question, where do people find you and how can they contact you?
The best place is nextgenmakers.co.uk, or find me, Adam Tipper, on LinkedIn, connect and start a conversation.
Okay. Do you want to give one final reminder of what your recommended Bob Dylan listener was for people?
Absolutely. Slow Train Coming, one of my favourite songs. But if you want more of an in-depth listen, I'd 100% recommend his latest album, Rough and Rowdy Ways. It's he's been touring it recently. I went to about 3 shows in the autumn, 2 in Wolverhampton and 1 at the Royal Albert Hall, which is his last show of the tour. It's a fantastic album. It's a brilliant show as well for fans of live music. So that's Rough and Rowdy Ways, the album. But a song from the late 70s, I think, that I really like is Slow Train Coming. And again, that's more of that sort of social commentary. Okay.
Well, as an appreciation for your time today, I will take it away as a bit of homework for myself and listen to it. I'll let you know. So thanks very much for your time. Much appreciated. And I'll do the usual sort of wrap up. So if anybody would like to get in touch with the show with a comment, a suggestion, or particularly if you'd like to appear on a future episode, please email inquiries@mtdcnc.com or contact myself, Stuart Whitehead or Joe Reynolds. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Get on to your Spotify or Amazon to listen to some music. From me, Mark Weymouth at Plus Automation. Cheers. Thanks.